We saw last time about the difference between the value and the text of a cell, that the cell can have a value, which is, in this case, is just a plain date, but the display could be any format, if it's a number or if it's a date. So this time, in this example, we have the abbreviation of the day, month, abbreviation of month, 2 digits day, and 4 digits year. That doesn't change the value. It's January 30, 2017. But there's different ways you can display this. So there's a preset formats. If you click the number formatting tab, you can just do short date, which is the default. So last time we saw how we can do the masking for numbers between the pounds and the zero, how you can force two decimals. The same way we can use the masking for, there's a format for the masking for the dates. You can pick the formats of the date based on, you can do the custom formatting. So for the day of the week, basically you have, is the letter D. So 3 Ds, that's abbreviated name, let's say Wednesday. If you want Wednesday to be spelled out, it's 4 Ds. So this is the difference between short and long. I think in the reference I put all these are explained. So for the month is the letter M. So M is 1M is single digit. Let's say 1 January. You want 2 digits, always force 2 digits to have a leading 0. It's MM. So it'll be 01 if it's January. You want the abbreviated 3 M's. This will be Jan. You want it spelled out 4 M's. We'll see some example. So this is day, month, and you have the year. Typically is 2 Ys or 4 Ys. So just let's work on these and do custom formatting, more formats, and do custom. So the cool thing about this tool, as you type, it shows you how your value is gonna be displayed. So if you don't want to show the day of the week, just delete the first part. It's gonna be MMM space DD comma 4 Ys. So if I want 2 digits year, I just delete 2 digits. So this how will be displayed. And again, the value of the cell never changes. This is only about how you're gonna display that date value. The default is month, day, year. If you want force 2 digits, it's MM/DD/YY. You see how the values are changing as I type? So if you want to show the full date, so it's start day. So see 1D, this is 30. 2Ds is already 2 digits. 3Ds, that's Monday. 4 is full day. Space, month, MMMM, January. Space, I want 2 digits day, comma 4 digits year. So it depends what you want to display on your spreadsheet. And typically this is, you do that if you have like a printable form. So you want to show all the details. I personally, in the days, most cases, I prefer to show the date of the week. Because sometimes some situation makes a difference if this date is a Monday or it's a Wednesday. So this is how you do the custom. Now, how are we going to extract this value individually from this date so we can look at those? So first we're going to look at, start from the year and month. So the year function, The year function takes one input, which is a date value. It's called the serial number, but it's a date value. So if you click the function here, it returns the year of a date as an integer, range from 1900 to 9999. So when I call this function, I just want the year of a certain date of B2. It returns 2017. Same thing with the month. Month of B2 is 1. And again, you notice it says January here, here it says 1. Because this function reads the value, it doesn't care how it's displayed here. So the month is not going to return January. Same thing for the day, returns a day. And there's a week function called the week number. Now return type, this is depends on where you live, what you consider first day of the week. In the US, officially Sunday. Sunday is officially the first day of the week. So the week number follows that. If you need to consider a different day, then use this option. I know in some countries, Monday is the first day of the week. Some others, Saturday, whatever. So this function supports that. But in the US, Sunday is the first day of the week. So January 30th, 2017 is actually the 5th week of the year. You can double check that. Go back all the way to January. So this year started on Sunday. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 30th falls in the 5th week. This is useful in payroll functions, especially if your company pays every other week. And which day of the week? Again, this is weekday function. Same thing, has the same return type optional parameter if Sunday is not. So Monday is the second day of the week according to the US calendar. So let me do these. This is week num. Day of week, I believe, weekday. So these are the functions, put these in blue. Okay. Is it clear how these 4 functions work? Yes.
This is only possible because your column B is that, I guess, value, right? The 137.
Right.
If it were actually written out that Monday, if I typed in physically Monday, January 30th, that wouldn't be able to pick it up.
Let me try that actually. Monday. Actually, it does recognize it. Because I already set the format, but let's say this is general, say Monday. Let me check equal year of this. Yeah, we're not. Because then it will take it as a text. Okay. Any question on these functions? Okay. Now, let's say the month, you want to, even though you return it, you extract it from this date, but you want to show the text. So let me add a new column here. So now we need to format this, apply these masks. So the function for that is basically text. This is to force a specific format on a value. So the value is this D3, I want to format it as MMM. It's abbreviated month. Hold on, F9. Hold on. Actually, I did something here. Formulas, calculation option, automatic. Okay, now why is it taking? Okay, something wrong here. I'm gonna look into this. I'll get back to you on that. Ignore it for now for the month. Is day of the week. So this is also day of the week. I'm using the same function for the day. Now happens they're all Monday for a reason. So how you can add to a date? Let's say you have a date and then you want to add 14 days or 20 days or 30 days. You simply use the plus formula. So this is B3 plus 7. There is a special function to add dates, but if you're adding days specifically, you can just use this. It's plus 7. If you use plus 6, then it will be Sunday. You can use, let's do this, run between 1 and 7, and we'll apply it here. So the day function, the day of the week, it returns the day number. Monday is day 2, and then I can reformat it, use 3Ds, which is abbreviated day. So this will convert it back to the day of the week if you need to isolate this. We'll see later why you may need to break this up. If you're doing, let's say, your aggregated value or sums or average per day of the week, or you want to chart per the day, you want to break up these values into the days. See, let's say in total Mondays car sales. You compare them day of the week. Do you sell more on Tuesdays or on Mondays? So on. Yes.
Could you do a custom or a date like function for the month instead of doing the text?
You can do a function.
Instead of doing a function, can you do format?
For
like would it recognize it if you did the format?
Used to work. I know there's a trick to that.
No, I'm saying like
Yeah.
formatting column D instead of
Format the column D?
inserting a new column. Yeah,
It
would it recognize
might actually. Hold on. I doubt it's going to be any different. No, it won't be. It's actually exactly the same. But I'll look into it. There is a way how to get that. I'll move this here. Yes.
If you want to add to the date, for example, a month, you need to plus 30, 31, or in a function.
You want to add a month? There's another function for that called date add.
Date add.
Yeah, but if you're simply adding dates, you don't have to use the function. Just use the plus sign.
Okay. Right.
So that's kind of a shortcut. So this is how you break a date into days, month, and week and text. Now the opposite. Let's say you have those values come separately. You have different years, month, and days. You want to create one field of date type out of these. So use the function, simply use the function date. Same format. So the date function takes 3 parameters: year, month, and day, simply. And that will give you a date value field. So just like this one, you can format it the same way. Use the format painter. You can format it and it's treated exactly like a date value. So this is the reverse. If you have years, month, and days different or separate, you can put them all in one column. Yes.
The date formula goes, it's year, month, and day.
Yes.
It only recognizes numbers?
Has to, yeah, the year, month, and day have to be numbers. Actually, again, if you look here, so day is a number from 1 to 31, and month has to be a number from 1 to 12. It doesn't recognize text. You cannot pass in like January or February. And year has to be from 1900 to end of the world. 9999. I don't even believe we'll last till 2100. Not sure about 9999. We'll see. Okay. Any question on these?
I have a question
Sure.
about the week number. If I want to switch to the European calendar,
Which is like starts Monday.
yes.
That will be just like this. Week begins on Monday. This is system 2, and you hit enter.
Can you do that one more
Can
time?
you, yeah.
Sure. Without the mouse, use the keyboard. Just mouse in, tab, close the parentheses, and enter.
Okay.
That will make Monday the 30th the 6th of the week. Why? I'll show you why. Because the year starts Sunday. This is actually week 1. Week 1 could be partial. And this Monday is week 2 now. That makes the 30th. This is week 3, 4, 5. This is week 6. And the same thing apply of day of week. So by default, Sunday is the first day of the week, unless you specify different systems. I know in other countries, I think in Europe is Monday.
Yeah.
Monday is the first day of the week, right? Yeah. I mean, as simple as these things are, actually, this could be a lot of conflict for a lot of people. Yes.
You change the format of the whole date as well? For example, in Europe, it's say Monday, 30 Jan.
This? Yes, you can change the order.
Okay, yeah, just like you, yeah.
So instead of month first, you can put the day. And if you don't use the comma, that's fine. You can use this. So you can also, I believe, not that I've used it much, you can change the language. Since now the month is in English, actually, I think you can use it in other languages as well. So this is part of what's called localization or internationalization. So that applies to currency, to dates, and so on.
You can do it without changing the language of Excel itself?
You don't have to change the language of Excel. It's just the setting the format of that specific one. Same thing like we pick in currency. So you can pick any currency format you want. I think date, hold on, let me, here, local. Change to let's try. And day and no, I didn't do it. These are settings to do the.
And you can't do it in
Try it on the Jeep.
You can do it in custom. Here you go.
Column.
This is the settings. You need to specify the culture and the language. This is France. This is French in France because you can select France, Monaco, or other. They have different sets. So now if you put it this way, now it shows. And you notice I haven't changed anything in my computer. Yeah, typically, you're going to see it not only in Excel, everywhere. When you select a language, there's two parts. There is the I think the language or the culture, and then the locality. Let's say in the US, that you will see in many cases English-US, because they're also English, and they're always two letters mostly, like English-Canada. So this is Canadian English, English, and Irish English, and so on. Any question on these? So let's go back to the list. So adding and subtracting dates. By the way, this addition can also be subtraction. Let's say this date is B12 minus some random number, but let me do this. I put this date, I want 5 days before this date, minus 5. From March 20 goes to 25 goes to March 20. So anything you can do addition, by default you can do subtraction too. For that, I want to do. There is two functions. Let's say you want today's date always to appear. There's a function equals today, and doesn't take any parameter. That's why you open close brackets. Simply gives you today's date. So if you close this file and you open it tomorrow, tomorrow is going to be 9/7. So always gives you the current date.
Oh,
So some people think well, you put it there and that's it. No, it's every time you open Excel, it's going to give you what's today's date, or the computer's date to be more specifically. So if I change the date, let's say the 5th. No, actually, it's not going to change it like that. I'm going to change my. Okay, I need to log in as admin. Forget it. So, but today will only give you today's date, and this is typically used in a secure Excel. I've seen it where sometimes reports are generated and printed, and when you set up the security of your worksheet, you can do password protected, right? You can put a password, so the user cannot change specific areas. So in that secure area, you always put that date. So every time they print, you know exactly when it was printed. I've seen this in many cases. So many users have this report, this Excel, they open the data and they, take screen capture or print it and distribute it. But that date, because they can never change it, because it's in secure area, you always know exactly when date and time it was printed. The one with the time says it's now. So you have today and you have now. Actually, let me change the format of this. I don't want to use the same column. This is general. Okay, leave it. So this is equals today. So this is just plain date, and let me put on stupid McAfee. So now it gives you date and time. You notice it's exactly 8 p.m. now. And now by default, it automatically adjusts the format to be custom date format, hours and minutes. You can add seconds. So every time I refresh and typically F9, you'll see that seconds change. That you want it to the second. By default, it doesn't include the seconds. Now 8:01. So same thing like today. If you close it, open it later, this will exactly give you the exact right time. Yes?
Can you format it again that it's not like 20:01, it's gonna be.
Oh yes. So we'll get to the time part of this. So this is for the date. So now the time. Same thing. You formatted the date. You can format the time. For hours is you have two. You have H and lowercase and uppercase. We'll see the difference. So 1H is the single digit hour. 2H is double digits. If it's 1 o'clock, it will show 01. Now lowercase and uppercase, this is typically switched between AM, PM, and 24 hours format, or some people know it as military format. So lowercase, this is for 12 hours format, and this is for 24 hours. So if we go back to this custom format, and the seconds is S. So you can do, let's say, let me do HH. One second. Actually, I made a mistake. I confused it with another program. So H actually doesn't matter if it's this. It's 12 or 24. Then you add AM, PM, or you don't. That wasn't C#. So you can add seconds and AM/PM. So this is 2 digits hours, 2 digits minutes, 2 digits seconds. Enough seconds actually, if they give you milliseconds or not, actually does. Not that you want that, but if you have a data that really you want to get to like milliseconds or fraction of a second, you better use something else. Yeah.
So if you exclude AM, PM, it's military?
If you exclude AM, PM, yes. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'll take that back. I spent the whole day working on something else and I'm stuck in my head. Okay, so this is the format. It will be 8:01:03 p.m. Hit F9. So again, second really is not, it depends on your data. If you have a data that's really down to the second, you can include it. By default now, it does not. Okay. So similar to year, month, and day, let me actually just format. So you have the function hour. And you have minute and second. And let me just move the date later. So I copied this and pasted it as value because this is general. It didn't give me a time value. I need to format it as date and time. So what I do here, I can copy the format of this cell and apply it here. So this will not only copy the formatting, like the font formatting. Let's say if this is bold, and I do copy format, copy the number format and the font style as well, the format painter. So if I pick the hour of this, give me 20. The hour function is going to give it from 0 to 24, from 1 to 24. Or from 0 to 23, if I'm correct. From 0 to 23, yeah. So 30 minutes after midnight is 0 hours, 30 minutes. So a minute also of a time, or date, time, or time. By the way, the input doesn't have to be full date and time, it could be time only, as long as it has hours. Actually, let's change that, remove this. And then change, hold on. I need to remove the date part of the formatting. Yes?
So the format has to be date and time only, then will the functions go, or if
No, the functions will work. Actually, you can even use the function, the hours on this, but it's gonna give you, by default, okay, let me show you this. If you apply the same format on a date only, it's gonna be 12 AM by default, the time, since it's not specified. So if you apply the hours, the hour and minute function on this value, is gonna turn a midnight value, because the time of this date is not specified. Same thing if you have a time only value and you try to extract the year and the month and the date, is going to give you 1/1900 by default.
So if you put the hour, can you put it as like, the 12-hour clock instead of switching?
No, the hour function gives you, returns a value from 0 to 23. So you may need to create your own logic to specify its AM or PM. This is the minute and the second. Divide. So this is how you break down the time. And again, if you try to use the month or the year on a time only value, it's going to return 1900. So if the time is not specified in a date value, actually, you know what? Let me make these copy, leave them. In a date time value, if the time is not specified, is midnight by default. So if you extract hour, minute, or second from a date value, it's going to be midnight. And on a time only cell, if you want to extract the date, it's going to be January 1, 1900. According to Excel, this is when time starts or began. Is it clear? I want you guys to get used to these and to these functions. I think this is a good way to do it together, because you're going to use that later. And we're going to see later how this is going to be useful when you want to do some analysis on your data. When you do analysis per month, per year, per day of the week, and so on. Any questions so far? Good, yes.
Are there functions that automatically spits out, like, for example, last day of the year, last day of the month?
Last day of the month. Not sure, but you can actually find that. I think about it. So, for example, if you want to know what's last day of March, right? So typically the way I would think about it, last day of the month is the day before the first day of the next month. So try to find that day and -1. They always give you the day of the last day of the previous month. So let's do this exercise quickly then. Hold on, let me add a new sheet. So let's say month is like 1, 2, let's put them in numbers, right? So the last day of the month is, and let's say it's years 2017. Equals, this is 2017. So show how we can combine a couple of functions together. So the last day of this month, first let's get the first date of the following month, the date of this year, right? And 12, and the day is B2 plus 1, correct? And the day is the 1st. This will give me February 1st, correct? And then what I do, minus 1. So this 228, 331. Let's say this was 2014, or let's say 2018, which is, I think, 2016 was the, okay, so if it's 2016, will be 29. Now, if you only want the day of that, so what's the value of this is the date value, correct? How we can get the day of that? But how we can do this all in one function? What we said, because this references this, right? So I take the whole function here. This is C2. I copy it. I replace C2 by that function. This will give me 31. This will be last day. So I put together the date, the first day of the next month, and then I do minus 1. That will give me the last day of the current month, of the month I'm looking at. There's only one trick. If I apply this, now December, let me see what date it took that, because, oh, it worked. It didn't give me error. So B13 plus 1, how much is that? What's B13? B13 is 12. B13 plus 1 is 13. So I passed the 13 as a month. But Excel automatically does the modulo, or the remainder of division by 12. So 13 modulo 12, if you remember high school math, is 1. Somebody raised his hand? Yes.
Yeah, so I was wondering, isn't that there an easy way to do just by using the EO mouse formula?
We'll get to that. But I want you guys to understand how you can put things together. So this will do it actually. But the other function, give you the last day of the month of start date and hold on. There is an end of month date. Of the month before or after a specified number of months. Honestly, I haven't used this before. Let's play with it. Equals end of month, start date. Let's just hard code one date. Is, let's say, 4th January 4, 2017. And 1 month. That will give me, oops. And this has to be date format. Okay. So 1 month after January 4. So if I put 0, that'll be end of January. So you can use end of month. So I specify a date, and after how many months after that date will follow, and they'll give you the end of the last date of that month. I don't know actually what's the use case for that. Now that I've used it much before, maybe once. But definitely there's some use cases for it. So this I think if you click it, actually you'll go to the help page for the function. And this applies to was introduced in Excel 2010. So if you have Excel 2007 for whatever reason, this function does not exist. So this will tell you where you can use it. And 2016 for Mac. Okay. By the way, not until like the last few years, Microsoft Office becomes like really full, provided all the full functions on iPads and Mac, and even Android. Before that was really crap. The reason is, especially for the MBA students studying business, you follow Microsoft News and the technology industry overall. They had a new CEO 23 years ago, 2014. And since then, the company shifted big time. Before, the strategy was on a high level, just what BlackBerry did. You need to use our products, you need to have Windows. That's where everybody have iOS, Android, iPads, and so on. And Microsoft failed to provide any mobile iOS. So the new CEO basically changed that strategy. So they separated all their product from Windows. You have Windows, good. You don't, also good. So they start actually aggressively putting all their products on all platforms. So that's why you see the shift for Mac support only from recently, like 2015, 2016. You see the Mac versions actually almost like PC, except just for a few features, as I mentioned earlier. We're going to see that toward the end. Some really advanced features only available on PC for now. But I think in the next 2 years, probably they'll become fully supported on Mac as well. Okay. So I'll leave this. This is end of month. But I want to show you how you can use a function within a function, which we've seen one example last time, but you always can do that. Because one function, let's say the date, will provide, you treat this as a date, and then you apply an arithmetic to it, -1, this is -1 day, and then you get the day of that date function. You're going to have to use this nested or function when we start working on the logic functions, and or not, and the if statement. When you have a condition, you want to check the value of a certain cell. If this value less than this, put this value, otherwise use the other value. And that's going to be by next week. Okay. Any question on these? Clear? Do I need to repeat anything? Be happy to. Today. Okay. Okay. And just like, did I change something? Oh, I was looking for this. And similar to the date, you can also put the time back together with the time function. Hour, minute, and second. So you can create that.
Put in this
20 is 8 p.m.
No, I know, but how did it know it'd be like-
By default, I mean, if you notice, before I typed this in, this was general format. I didn't specify that this is like a time. But once you use the time function, Excel automatically formats it as a time. You know, notice it changed to custom, and if you see what kind of custom form that is, see it's hours, say AM, PM. Then you can go back and change it. You can use this format if you want, or any other format. Again, for the thousandth times, the format is different than the value. The value never changes. The way you display the text changes. Okay. Okay. Date and time formatting, we touch base on these. Okay, let me start on some few other functions. I have a quick table here of expenses for an example, travel advertising expenses, which is the type of expense, date, when it's due, how much it cost, how much the quantity. So the cost before tax equals what? Cost per unit times quantity, right? So let's say sales tax is 5%. Let me show you one quick feature. So instead of, remember last time what we did, we had to use absolute reference for this one, correct? F4 times J1, and I press F4. Instead of doing that, I can give this a more meaningful name. So I go to the cell name here, and I call this sales underscore tax. It has to be one word. You cannot name it 2 words. You cannot use space. So either like use sales tax like this, or use underscore. So now, when I type the sales tax equals F4, I can simply start typing sales tax and it will show up. I click it, and hit enter. So you don't even need to know it's in J1. You can move it later somewhere else, and that you just update the name and it will not break. And you manage these names from formulas, name manager. So now I have this name, sales tax, that's a reference to J1 in tax example sheet. If you want to move this somewhere else, you come here, you update it, and sales tax always will be there.
I missed it. Can you redo it?
Sure. Let me go back here, delete it. So instead of using absolute reference, like this, F4 times J1, I will name this where 5% is. Instead of J1, I'll just give it a name, meaningful name, called sales tax, and I hit enter. Now this becomes the name of this cell. So when I use it, instead of typing J1, I simply type sales tax. Do that. And the total is cost plus sales tax. So I'll highlight these 3 and double click and go all the way down. Now let's summarize what we have here. What is, let's say, the smallest, hold on, wait, min, max, average, and total. This is on a high. Yep. So the minimum of this range. So the min function can accept multiple numbers. I can either select this, comma this, comma this. We're gonna do that, be my guest. Or you can simply just highlight the range. Or if you don't want to highlight the range, just highlight the whole column. It's HH. So the smallest one is 32. Max, the maximum of these values. So this has to be, if you notice, this is like, tells you this is number 1 and number 2. So these inputs has to be numbers. And let's format these as all as money. So the biggest one is 7,000. In average, $2,000. The total, use the sum function. 56,000, and how many of them count. So put the functions here, min, max, average, sum, and count. So these are the functions used. So at a glance, this will, without even looking through the numbers, I can see those. And let me do one more thing here. So if you have a data set like this, you can highlight it and you can use filter. This will add these drop downs next on top of each column. Let me highlight these and make it yellow. Then you can sort by them. Let's say sort by smallest to largest, the opposite, or sort by date due for newest date, so on. Oh, yeah, actually I have to repeat it again for a reason. I missed one column. I missed the type. Okay, so let me clear filter first. Select everything and do filter. So then go back here, can sort. You notice that the text here actually, the Excel knows this is a date, so it adjusts the language property from newest to oldest, not largest to smallest, because that's a date value. If you want to sort the money value, you know, from largest to smallest, smallest to largest. So you want to sort by the newest, so you know when, or actually the invoice due, so you know which one is due first, so on. So let's say you want to break these down by type. Let's see how many types we have first. What's a quick thing to do to pick just how many types of these? So let me show you this. No, I want to just the list of the values here. I have newspaper, billboard, podcast, hats. So I copy this. No, count already I know. I have 28, but these are redundant. I want how many unique values of types, how many types I have. So I create a new sheet and I copy this new sheet, just temporary, and I paste the values. And under data, once you select my data set, there is a button called remove duplicates. And here I don't have a header, so I don't have a type, so I keep that on check, and it's the data in column A. So out of the 29 I have, this is 12. These are the different 12 types. So I'll take these back, I copy. I'll take these back. You know what? Leave them here. That's fine. Let's call it summary.
Where do you click to remove them?
Under data, there is a button called remove duplicates under data tools section. We'll see this later, but this is a quick way to do it. Let me add just one and call this type. And we'll sort these by sort and filter, custom sort. Now I have a header, which is type, so I'm going to sort by type from A to Z. Now, you can use the same functions here, but applies to each type separately. So this is total. This is like total 56,000, but how many newspaper, how many billboard, how many podcasts? I don't know. Okay. So let me take these. And this is also, I'm going to show you how I can copy column and paste it as row. When I copy this, or let me copy this one, go to summary, and here I paste as transpose. I'll do it again. So I copy this in column format, right click, transpose, put in the same but horizontal. Also, you can do it the opposite. If it's horizontal, I can paste transpose again, go vertical. So it works both ways. So let's start with the count. I know that the total count is 28, right? Now I want to do count, but count if. Actually, count if. What I'm counting, I need to select the range. I'm counting this, or column A actually, AA. And the criteria is this. So here's the two part of this function. The range. If you notice, if you reference a cell in another sheet, it adds Excel as the name of the sheet before the reference cell. So this is in sheet tax example, column A. That's my range. That's what I'm counting in. Now I want to count only the one that matches specific value. I can hard code it here and type in billboard. Tell me only 2 billboards among these. Or instead of hard coding, I can simply reference it, which is A2. Now the fact that I reference a column, so if I apply the formula up and down, it's always going to be the same column. So if I move this down like this, it's always going to reference AA. If I move it sideways, it's going to reference BB, because it's a relative reference, not absolute. I don't need that. So there's one hat, 2 magazines, because now I'm referencing hats and magazines. And it seems there's a typo here. We have web page ASD. Let's fix that. So how much the total of these will be? Should be 28. And if it's not 28, you're missing something. It is 28 down here. You see, this is like gives you a summary of your selection. You select numbers, give you how many, max, and sum. So you don't have to create the total. And if you need to customize this area, you can select, you can add the minimum as well. Okay. So what we do here, you can either put, let's put a bottom line. Either use sum of these, and Excel has a cool actually shortcut for the sum. This here automatically knows or guesses what he's trying to add up. So this is the sum function. So same thing with the sum. Instead of using just sum, we use sum if. Actually, sum if. So you need to provide range, criteria, and sum range. Sum range is optional. Now, we're going to provide these 3. So I need to select first the range is the range I'm comparing my criteria against. And then the matching column for the total. So I'm going to use 2 columns from the original sheet. So I'm asking Excel, give me the sum of based on the criteria. So the criteria I'm checking against column A, correct? And the criteria is, in this case, it's summary A2. And what's the sum range? The sum range is H, correct? And make this number format. Let me simplify this a little bit. So is it clear how the value is here? Same like in count. So what Excel does, what is it? If column A matches billboard, then it will add up the totals. So this will be the sum of how many items of type billboard. 13,000 is the sum of how many items of type newspaper. So now you know, you can have an idea where most of them are. And same thing, the total will be how much? Should add up to 56,909. Use the sum function. Okay. If you want, let's do it this way. Hold on. Let me take this from here. Put it here. Having on the same sheet probably make it easier. Okay, let's delete this. So if I'm referencing data on the same sheet, I don't need to use the sheet name. So this will make it a little bit easier for you guys to read. So let's go back again. So the range is AA. This is the range for the criteria. I have to provide range and criteria always go together. So my criteria has to be billboard for the first one. Billboard, I'm looking for billboard where? Which column? Column A. And if it's a match, it will add up the values in column H, because I'm looking for the total.
I know we didn't cover this yet, but if you were to do a VLOOKUP, could you put those formulas in the VLOOKUP? You get the same thing?
No, VLOOKUP will not give you that.
You can't put formulas in it?
No. You can use it, but it's not going to give you the sum of all the VLOOKUPs. You're going to see later how we're going to use pivot table actually without going through this, but pivot table uses exactly same logic. So these are this function will give you the totals of everything, but this will give you a breakdown. So same here, apply min f's of minimum of range. So by the way, not all functions have the same order of parameters. So minimum, you have to specify the range you're going to get the minimum from, which is in this case is H. And then the criteria, range 1. So you can apply multiple criteria. The reason multiple criteria because it's min ifs, because there's no min f. Only ifs. So everyone has if, like you have some if and some ifs with s. If you need to apply multiple criteria and only one. So say the type has to be billboard and the date has to be in January. If you want to break it up even more. So you can apply as many criteria as you want. So if you have more than one criteria, you have to use the ifs with s. Same thing with average, average if, average ifs, and so on. Min, for whatever reason, doesn't have one criteria, always supports multiple, which is similar. So first range is A, and the criteria is this one. So I'm not going to have the total for the mins, but you can have the min of mins. And it should match the min of all, of course. And max equal max ifs, max of totals, A, and All these are dollar values. So if you want to display this on a graph, how would you think this should work? How are you going to graphically display this data? Your manager asks, you know what, give me on one slide how our invoice and expenses are distributed between different types. Not by chart. Showing min, max, and total. On one side, I would think of a column chart, of a bar chart. I would think, let's say the x-axis will be the money. Oh, this is the bottom. What's the max value of everything? Max is 7,000, right? Or 8,000? Hold on, we need the max total. Total 15,000. So just like min and max, if you like to look at the distribution, there's one way to show it. So the x-axis will be the dollar sign, and the value will be 1 for each type. So it will be one type will be like min and max between here and here, and this between here and here, and this is this, and this is that. Then you can work, for example, on the thickness of the line, how much total is. So this will be small, this will be big. You can have different size circles and so on. So different ways you can display it. You can use two charts or so on. So we'll get to another section later. Got when. About charts and slicers. November. But doesn't mean we're not going to see charts until then. But we're not going to focus on that until then. But we're going to see charts every now and then. Now, last functions before we're done for the day. It's average if average of the criteria range is AA, the type is billboard, and I'm averaging the total. Average of averages, I don't think that works, but let me try. I don't think it's gonna get the right number. 20, no. So this is leave it blank. Do you guys know why I didn't put averages of all averages? You can use it, but the number is meaningless. This is the right value, average of everything, 2032. If I have average per type, the average of these doesn't give me the average of everything. Yes, average of averages doesn't give me that. So I still can use the formula, it's going to give me a number, but it's not useful. So if you notice, min and max, they match these. The total and count, they do match. But average of averages will not. Okay. So this is how you can use these functions to get a summary of your data. And here it's relatively easy because 28, but let's say you have 5,000. We're going to see later in that case how we're going to use pivot table, but on a high level, if you just want to do a quick summary, just at least not necessarily break down like this, but something quick like this, you can get that. Okay. So before you leave, we still have 1 minute. Just on this side, this is one we're going to see later. We're going to do statistics about the histogram. The average doesn't give you the full story. So min and max at least gives you between where your data starts, where your data ends, and where the average is. This gives you where it's skewed, but you need to get a histogram at least to get a distribution curve. So histogram will give you that. We'll get to that when we see the work on the statistics functions. How you see how data is distributed.